People who have been Santa at the mall, what's the creepiest thing a kid has asked for Christmas? I have been Santa for several seasons. I had a special needs young woman, approximate age of 40, emotional level of 12 perhaps, ask me to make her boyfriend quit hitting her. I told a lady who was helping me to get the deputy sheriff at the event to come see me. I whispered to him what she had said. He came back 10 minutes later and asked if I would speak to her in a private area. There, the deputy and Santa got a clearer but very disturbing picture of how she had been repeatedly abused. In May, the deputy let me know the offender had been sentenced to 8 years and the girl had been relocated to a new care facility. Story 2. This story is just sad rather than creepy. Kid came in and wanted nothing except from a Matchbox car. He told me how every week he heard his mom sneak into his bedroom and take the pocket money that she had given him to buy cigarettes. I felt so terrible for him that I gave him 3 to 4 different presents rather than just one. Story 3. My boyfriend is a Santa for private events and has been doing it for over 20 years, so he has a bunch of stories. He was doing a private adults-only party, so all of the ladies were being a bit flirty, but nothing crazy. Santa Baby started playing and the ladies dragged him onto the dance floor. He shimmies a bit and goes to sit back down when a woman grabs him and starts grinding on him. He tries to get away from her in character. What will Mama Claus think? Etc. But she keeps on grinding and starts to moan. Finally, the hostess notices and gets her away from him, but she kept trying to get to him the rest of the night. Another time was when a little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old, crawled into his lap and, with a big sweet smile, asked Santa, "Can you make my mommy love me?" My boyfriend had to hug the kid so he wouldn't see him tearing up and told him that that was a request for a higher power and that he and Mama Claus would pray about it. Kid seemed happy with that response. Story 4. I was Santa for corporate holiday parties one year. I was in my 30s but used a spray for my beard. It looked lifelike, kids dug it. So did one mom or aunt who threw a kid off my lap, hers I hope, and whispered that she wanted Santa to bleep her from behind while pulling her hair. She didn't seem to be drunk. I was very uncomfortable. Then the meeting planner told me she does that every year. Story 5. My uncle was a mall Santa for a while. He said that the worst thing he was asked for by a child was, "Can you get daddy to come home?" He also had quite a few kids tug on his beard, which was a real beard, to verify that he was actually Santa. Story 6. I wasn't a Santa, but my roommate was. This was at a spot in East Brooklyn, a super impoverished area riddled with a lot of drugs and violence. He said it was disturbing how many kids had literally nothing, so they asked for the most basic things, or they just asked to get out of shitty situations. He said stuff like this was common. "I wish my mom would stop hitting me. I wish my brother was still alive, he got shot. I wish we had enough money for a microwave. I wish my daddy would stop doing heroin." Stuff like that was everywhere. Story 7. I was the Santa for an office party. It was my first year with the company, and apparently the tradition went that the newest guy had to wear the suit. Also something about how the suit was cursed. Anywho, skip forward to the party. I'm going around taking pictures with people I barely knew at the time, and then it gets to where presents were being handed out. Now I had sat in the back because the CEO was the one handing out presents. Didn't want to confuse people where the real money was, LOL, and minding my own business. This woman, think mid-40s kind of cougary, walks up to me drunk out of her mind, and she sits on my lap. Now I'm all for keeping character, so I ask, "Why hello, what would you like for Christmas?" And she says, without hesitation, "I'd love for my husband to bleep me in the ass while you watched." Now, when presented with the opportunity, I maintained composure and politely declined while attempting to get her off my lap. After she said, "It's fine, my husband's good with it, let me get him." And that's when she screams out, "Pat," at the top of her lungs. I shit you not, the whole party heard and turned to see the new guy with the CEO's wife on his lap. Now remember when I said cursed? Apparently this wasn't the first time, and others had accepted the offer. I still work there. Story 8. Years ago, I was in line with my 6-year-old nephew for his visit with Santa. When Santa asked my nephew what he wanted for Christmas, he said, "Could you get mommy and daddy some pajamas? Because they don't wear any." The whole line broke up, including Santa. Story 9. Former mall Santa. Even bought a professional suit because I hated the one they provided. I got a few creepy stories that involves kids, college students, and adults. Kids. A little girl no more than 5 years old was screaming bloody murder when it was her turn. Kids get scared of Santa, not that uncommon. Her dolled-up mom was having none of her child's tantrum, and the elves were pleading with her to not put the girl on my lap. She did, and her kid instantly stopped screaming. Just had this look of pure hatred at her mom for the remainder of the photo session. I swear, I thought I was on candid camera, before YouTube y'all. It looked so acted out. Attempting to talk to the little terror, I asked her what she wanted for Christmas. She looked at me and softly said just above a whisper, "For my mommy to die." I noped myself to a break after that one. It was the inside joke for the rest of the mall Santa season, whispering between kids, "I want you to die." College students. One rather lonely overweight gal kept getting in line several times a week to get pictures with Santa. I was in college myself back then, and I'm pretty sure she was working herself up to asking me out. Extremely shy, awkward, and had some hygiene issues. She only paid for one of the photos, but the elves remember seeing her throughout the week when I wasn't on shift. Apparently only got pictures with me. Adults. I was in my 20s, and the perverted things the MILFs whispered into my ear while sitting on Santa's lap were definitely something for the naughty list, to be sure. It became so frequent for the younger Santas to get groped, teased, and molested that the elves were told to stay close when adults got their pictures taken. Story 10. This is a grim one. My ex's dad owned a restaurant, and I worked there part-time in my late teens, so I witnessed this. Christmas Eves were usually really busy, so to earn more money, his wife came up with the idea to pretend to be Santa for a few hours on Christmas Eve and charge something like $2 per kid. This one, Dad came up to my ex's dad. My ex's dad was Santa, not me, and paid the money for his kid, and then went to the toilet with his other child, a baby, leaving the kid with Santa. Santa asked the kid what he wanted for Christmas, and apparently the kid whispered into his ear, "I want Daddy to go away." He asked the kid to explain why, and apparently the dad had beaten up the mother a few hours prior and had locked her in the shed in their back garden before taking the kid and his baby sister out to eat because they had been crying hysterically, and he was worried the neighbors would hear and get suspicious. Santa then asked the kid for his address and told my ex, who worked in the kitchen, to call the police. I think some police went to the house, and then some turned up at the restaurant to arrest the dad. A social worker also came to collect the kids. We never found out what happened to them after that, but it ended up in the local paper and got loads of promotion for the restaurant. Story 11. Not a Santa, but I remember being in hospitals a lot as a kid with serious stomach issues. I remember asking a mall Santa if I could get better and not die once when I was about 8 or 9 years old. When the mall Santa looked at me sadly and said he couldn't do that, almost in tears. I asked if my old dog that died as a puppy could be brought back as a zombie so we could both be dead together, and if I could come back as a zombie too so I could stay with my parents so they wouldn't be sad. Looking back, that was really creepy, and I think I broke the poor guy's heart. Story 12. My dad plays a mall Santa, and I used to be the photographer. Watching the older women flirt with my dad was highly uncomfortable, then creepy. Story 13. I wasn't a mall Santa, but I played one of his elves. I think the worst thing a kid ever asked for was some reindeer sausage. He figured Santa could slaughter one of his reindeer for the venison. Story 14. I wasn't a mall Santa, but one of the elves who took the pictures. We had 2 Santas. One was narcoleptic and we had to keep waking him up, and the other would bring his own homemade bags of coal to give to the kids who would cry, and we'd have to try to seize all the bags before he started his shift. That was a fun job. Story 15. One kid got on my lap and asked me if I could give him a bag of wiggly rice. I asked him what that was, and he said he ate some off a piece of chicken he found in the backyard. He said it was so yummy, he wishes he had a whole bag of it. Story 16. Some guy, pretty disheveled fellow, had to be mid-30s or something, got in my face yelling at me, accusing me of banging his mom. Luckily, he had another friend there who assessed the situation after an ocular pat-down. I shortly retired after that. Story 17. When I was 17, I worked for a Kmart and volunteered to be the store's Santa, mostly because it meant I could spend a majority of my Saturday shift sitting in a chair as opposed to pushing shopping carts. We would offer free photos inside a little pre-made Kmart Christmas card. The kids were easy. Ask what they want for Christmas, snap a photo, and done. Every once in a while you would get the kids screaming bloody murder while their parents forced them to take a picture with Santa. But I was that screaming kid once, so it never really bothered me. Adults was where it got a little creepy. Since the photos were free, the mothers would get in on it as well. Some would just openly hit on me, "Can I have you for Christmas?" The worst was an older woman who looked me in the eyes and said, "I just want the pain to go away, Santa." Me being 17 years old had no fucking idea what to say. Story 18. This story still haunts me as I drive by the house occasionally. Usually, I will drive out of my way to miss it. It was Christmas Eve 2004, and the father of a family with little kids, who were losing their belief in Santa, decided to rent a suit, climb up on the roof, make a bunch of noise and have jingle bells jingling so the kids will hear, run outside and see Santa with their own eyes. We had a busy day on the engine, firefighter, including a child airlifted to hospital from a really bad MVA, a house fire that destroyed a house, then this call. Well, Santa was on the roof, making noise. Kids run outside, 6, 8, 11, and Santa is lying on the ground. The family calls 911, we show up, Santa is having agonal respirations, and his heart was in V-fib. We ended up doing CPR on him, including airway and multiple shocks, all in front of his family. We tried several times to remove the family to protect them, but they wouldn't listen. Tears, I can't ever remove the vision from my mind of the children's faces as they saw Santa being worked, then realizing Santa was their dad. Then, their dad had died. Story 19. My friend was a mall elf. There was this one Christmas letter a kid gave Santa. It said something like, "Please bring us a Wii, so my parents will stop fighting and we can all be happy again." And on the back of it, all over, was written, "I will obey. I 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 will obey." Story 20. My friend worked as a mall Santa. He had one little girl who was about 4 years old ask him for a big garbage can. The request was very odd in comparison to the others he had gotten for new toys, so he asked the little girl why she wanted the big garbage can. The little girl didn't hesitate for a second and told my friend that she needed the garbage can to put her father in because he was a mean man and slapped mommy.